And I remember the call when you told me you became, you were a millionaire, and us continuing to grow and going through the ups and downs and pushing through. Like, it has been a roller coaster, but it has been so much fun.
No, it's definitely been fun.
It's a roller coaster that you put your hands up and you're screaming.
Yeah.
Right? But you make it to the end.
Welcome back to another episode of True Wealth Conversations. I am your host, Dominique Broadway, and we are in Mexico, Cancun, Mexico, specifically at the Planet Hollywood on the final day of our Wealth Demystified retreat. And I know I've been interviewing a lot of people, but I'm actually really excited because I get to interview one of my best friends and my chief of staff. And her name is Diana Lewis now, Diana Owolade. Yes. My apologies. This is still new.
New name. Who this?
New name. Who this? And I'm really excited because as a CEO and really, truly as an entrepreneur, we try to do everything, and there gets to a point where you want to have someone in your team that you can trust, someone that can help you almost fill in your shoes and help you make all this stuff happen. And that is who Diana is to me. So Diana, you want to tell everyone a little about who you are?
Yes. So Diana Owolade now. Owolade. I was corrected. Shout out to my Nigerian husband. So yes, I have been working with Dominique almost 2 years now. Actually, 2 years. It's been over 2 years. But prior to making the transition to for-profit, I was in nonprofit for 10 years. Had teams of 12 or more, anything from foster care up into fundraising and event planning. I do it all. I always joke and say, I'm the person that makes things happen. That's what I do. Literally. I make things happen. You tell me a problem, you tell me something that needs to be done, and I will figure out and make it happen. I don't get no's. If I get a no, I'll figure out how to get that yes. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I do, and I just use all of those skills from my nonprofit and just my organized personality to transition over to work with my bestie, Dominique, and help her run her multi-million-dollar company. So that's what I am.
Right. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. We know what you do, your background.
Yeah.
How long have we known each other now? Since
2018, 17?
17.
Mm-hmm.
We met.
But it feels like forever, right?
It feels like it's been a long time.
It's so funny. People think we're siblings.
They do. So everyone thinks we're sisters. Yeah. It's funny.
Like, that's your sister.
So we met in Houston.
Yes, Houston, Texas.
And we were at an event, actually, for Black Enterprise. I was working with... Really interesting how we met story.
Yeah.
So I was actually working with one of my other friends who she had a financial technology company. Yes. Mm-hmm. I was actually serving as her chief of strategy, and we got selected to go to the Black Enterprise pitch competition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we go to this pitch competition. We actually end up winning. Mm-hmm. And one of the other contestants that was pitching against us was one of Diana's family members.
Yes.
And so we all just kind of ended up meeting up at the bar after. And, just kind of celebrating that we won and, all the things. And so we're at the bar. And, I'm like, feeling the family member a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. He's like, "Oh, this is my sister Diana."
Yeah.
And in true fashion, when you see somebody trying to talk to one of your family, Diana was like, "Hi." Like, and I was like, "Ugh, ain't nobody think about you, right?"
And she beat us. I'm like, "How you talking to the enemy?"
She's like, "Why are you talking to the enemy?" And so it's funny. So that was my first interaction. I'm like, "If you don't like me, I don't like you."
Right.
Ain't nobody pressed to be your little friend. And so it's funny because after that, like, I actually ended up moving to Houston.
Yeah.
And Hurricane Harvey came, and like we just became really, really close.
Yeah.
And so me and the family member, we did not work out. Mm-hmm. But me and her like always stayed in touch. Yeah. We literally became sisters. And that was like 2017. And it's funny, we've been like just aces since then. Yeah. And it's funny because even then, when I was running Finances Demystified at the time, it was nowhere near as big as it is or had grown now. And I would always say, you're going to work for me one day. You're going to work with me one day because you just get stuff done anytime I ever need you to just even do anything, just helpful wise in my life. She always was just like there. And she also helped me get through a lot of like really, really dark times in my life when I was living in Houston. And I'm just like, we're going to work together one day because like between my vision and all the things I want to do and then you just being able to get it done, like we going to be able to take over the world. You remember that?
I remember that.
And
I do.
You probably thought I was crazy.
And I was like, what? Okay, girl. Whenever that happens, call me.
And then I did call.
Yeah, she did call. And I never forget getting that call. I was actually working with Dominique on a retreat that you were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, because I have an event planning company. So she was like, hey, can you do this retreat for me in Mexico? We're here again. And I was like, sure, of course. So I was working with her on the retreat.
Wait, and then she was like, well, when is it? I was like,
oh yeah.
Like, what I said.
What was it, 2.5 months?
Yeah, it was like, months. It's in 2.5 months.
Which everything Dominique does is, hey, I need it done in a week. I need it done tomorrow. And it's like these big, huge productions. And I'm like, what the heck? How am I going to do this? But I always figure it out. But yeah, so that event was happening probably like, let's say 2.5 months, 3 months. And I was helping her do that, and I actually was on calls with her to talk about that. And then she, in the middle of one of the calls, she was like, hey, I'm not sure when it's gonna happen, but I'm in conversation, I'm gonna hire you. And I was like, what? I'm helping you do a retreat in like a couple of months. Why are we talking? Like, let's just get through this. And she was like, okay, girl, whatever, I'm calling you. So I was like, okay.
So then one day I texted her and I said, because I had been like praying on it, and I'm at this time, Finances Mystified is growing very rapidly. It was like me, Julie, our ads manager, and then my former partner, and that was it. And we were doing millions, and it was growing so fast, and I was getting really, really overwhelmed. Yeah. And I had talked to one of my friends, and she was telling me like she had this chief of staff. And I'm like, I had never really heard, like I've heard of chief of staff, right? You know, but I feel like only really big companies had them.
Or presidents.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh, you hear it, and it's always like a prestigious role or whatever. And I'm like, what's your chief of staff do? And she was telling me, and I was like, oh, girl, I need one of them, right? This sounds like the missing piece. Right. And so I actually told my partner, I was like, yo, Diana would be the perfect chief of staff. So I texted you, and I was like, yo, you liking your job a lot? Like, what's your goals? I think I was like, what's your
goals? Like, what's your goal? What's your end goal?
And
I just kind of like share, okay, I like doing these things. I'm a people person. Of course, I love everything to be organized, professional. And, you know, I like HR stuff, this and that. And I love event planning. So I'm like listing out all of these things, community engagement. And she was like,
literally the exact job description.
Right. And she was like, okay, hold on. I'll be back. And I'm like, okay.
So then I got text back. I was like, okay, look, this is what I'm thinking about. You joining the chief of staff. Yeah. We can offer you this. I know you have this good, solid job. Coming to join my team is probably going to be a risk. You down?
Yeah. And I was like,
and what were your thoughts? Because you was probably like, Lord.
It was a lot, honestly, like making that transition, right? Because I went from, and I shared this story before, I went from working in nonprofit, literally getting to, I would say one of my like ideal roles, right? Yeah. I was working for a pretty big nonprofit. And if you're in the nonprofit space, of course, you want to work with the bigger ones because, of course, you get paid more, even though it's still nonprofit.
And responsible for raising millions and millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, I was responsible for raising like $1 million or maybe $2 million a year throughout the different fundraising events. So I was comfortable, right? But I had a goal, and just a little bit of a backstory. My now husband but at the time was my boyfriend. We were discussing like our family goals, what our future looks like, and we put some numbers down. And he was like, okay, you know, I'm an engineer. I have this background. If you could just do X, Y, and Z, then like we're here. We're ready to go. Like this will be like great to like take us to the next stage. And a part of that was like, I can't be here, right? I can't be in this job doing it. I can't go to work every day to the 9 to 5. Like I have to have a little bit more abilities to do other things in my day, build a business and things like that. So it was so crazy that you said that because, I mean, that was probably like in March, April, right? Yeah. And these are like our goals for the year. And then God just aligned it all. By April, when I actually made the transition to work with Dominique, after, of course, prayer and discussing it with my partner that ended up being my fiance and now husband, I was like, let's just do it. And the way I live my life is you can always go back, right?
Yeah.
I have an amazing family, right? So if everything failed, I can always go back home to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? And sleep in my old bedroom. That's like, you know, that is what I can
ideal,
always do.
but
It's
you
not
know,
ideal,
look, you
right?
know,
It's not
yeah.
ideal, but I know I have that backing. So in life, I always just go.
Yeah.
When I went to school in Tennessee and all my family was in Wisconsin, just go. When I moved to Houston for a job, and I literally just moved in 2 weeks and it had no plan, just go, because you can always go back. So that was my plan when I was like, hey, I'm willing to bet on my friend, right? And I know that as a friend, a sister, she would never steer me in the wrong direction, right? And also a mentor. I knew that, hey, if she thought I was best for this role, she wouldn't have came. If I wasn't good for this role, you wouldn't have came to me. So I was willing to take that step out on faith and do what I needed to do, and go after my dreams and goals and support you and yours.
Yeah, and I did not take that lightly. I was like, girl, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for believing in me. And because, you know, a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you do feel like you're the craziest person in the room when you're trying to do these things. And
She's
you're
crazy sometimes.
And it's cool. And I know that. We're going to talk about that in a second. And, you know, but just to have people that, and you also, like, you don't take it lightly. I'm like, okay, this is someone who's leaving their good, comfortable job to join my financial education company, which is really still, I mean, it's older company now, but it's still running as a startup.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're coming in and you're helping me hire these people, manage all these people and all these things. And, you know, but I'm like, look, I can increase your salary because you'll be an executive and you'll get to work 100% remote. And, you know, all these things, you may have to come to Miami every now and then. And she's like, okay, this is good. I can do this. So as I told you before, I do not take it lightly that you came and worked for me. And I'm thankful for you every single day. I tell I'm like, girl, you are it. Okay. So with that being said, what does your day-to-day look like? Before we talk about everything I do wrong, what does your day-to-day look like as a chief of staff?
Yeah.
And I will also preface this, as the chief of staff of, technically we have, I guess it's like 3 entities plus a separate business that that I recently acquired a majority ownership of, and now actually just made her CEO of that company. So she's chief of staff of like kind of like 3 brands, plus CEO of 1. So my bad. How does that?
Maybe I should have stayed. I shouldn't have went. Oh, no, I'm just joking.
I mean, you could have took the easy route.
Right, I could take the easy route. I'm always up for a challenge. I do.
You like a challenge. So what does your day-to-day look like as a chief of staff?
My day-to-day looks like, so we have employees, we have contractors. So generally it's kind of starting with email. So it's just like, who do I need to follow up with? What do I need to do? We utilize an internal messaging app. And I kind of go on there and figure out who needs what. I look for my name. I look for Dominique's name to make sure if she hasn't responded, at least I can respond to that. I check in with the employees, with the contractors. If someone was sick, hey, are you okay? Following up, making sure everyone's good. Make sure they feel the love and support, whether it's sick or family stuff. I also am in charge of all of our external partners and business relationships. So does the business manager have what he needs? Does the HR team have what they need? Does the legal team have what they need? Is this contract signed? Have we paid this person? Of course, I handle payroll every month. We pay monthly. And just whatever needs to be done. And that's just the day-to-day kind of things.
So you forgot about the events.
Oh, that's what I was going. That's the day-to-day stuff. That's the day-to-day stuff. So then also, I am chief of staff, right? But I'm also like director of events and any idea that Dominique comes up with, right? So depending on the time of year and what idea Dominique has on the table, I am also working to execute that, or making sure that our project manager, depending on which business it is executing and making sure that all the things are done. And then the biggest task of the day generally is to make sure Dominique is where she's supposed to be. And that is connecting with Dominique's executive assistant. Hey, does she have what she needs? Is there overlap on the schedule? I know we have an executive assistant, but I always like to make sure, like, hey, her calendar has overlap, or she needs to be on this meeting and it shows another meeting. Why is there 2? Which one is she going to? Things like that. or figuring out if there's something on her plate or on her calendar that I can take off her plate or handle and do,
or
because it's
taking those meetings.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And I take those meetings and have it, especially when it comes to a lot of our external business partnerships that we have. Like, hey, I can get on with Zoom and talk to them about that, or I can get on with whatever partnership it is and discuss the financial stuff, because essentially I would have to be the one to make those payments anyways to figure out if there's any issues. So yeah, that's my day to day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. I know I probably don't make the job easy sometimes. Let's talk about that, right? So listen, I'll tell you this. Okay, so when Diana came on board, I told her what the job was going to be.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
I'm like, but we were also hiring like crazy.
Yes.
And I will also say, I just came off of, at the time, I think Finances Demystified was like 8 years old. And I have basically been working by myself for the past 8 years.
Yeah.
And I only had one person on my team, which is Julie, who's my graphic designer for many, many years. I brought on other little contractors, but she has been with me probably, I guess, almost for 8, 9 years now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that was it. But we were growing so fast. And Diana came in and just had to start hiring,
yeah,
like crazy. And with that happening, it made me realize what I am not good at.
Yeah.
And I am really bad at a couple things.
Yeah.
Kind of communication, managing people.
Yeah.
What else would you say?
With running a company, Dominique we look at her, and we had to have this conversation with our team, right? Dominique the CEO, but then Dominique is also the face of the brand, right? So we look at her as Dominique the talent, and there's certain Dominiques you get in a meeting, right? So we could be in a marketing team meeting, right? When Dominique is in a marketing team meeting, Dominique is in that meeting as the CEO. But then also Dominique can transition very quickly to the talent, right? So she's there for CEO, but then she's also there as the talent. And honestly, sometimes the talent will say things that a CEO shouldn't, right? And I think that was a conversation. So I'm always in the background, like cutting the Zoom video off and texting Dominique, like, girl, you cannot say that.
No, so this was
you cannot say that.
This was a funny thing. So when she first... And like I said, I will say I was transitioning from working by myself to like working with all
being
these
an entrepreneur
people.
To now a CEO.
And it was hard. It was a really hard transition for me because, like, you know, I'm not saying I can do it all, but I had been doing it all.
Yeah.
And I had been doing it all. And I also I had newborns at home. And so I was struggling with some of what I feel like were often excuses or BS excuses for people not getting their stuff done.
Yeah.
And I was not doing a good job of managing
the
those emotions.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would get so frustrated because it's like, bruh, I just did this by myself.
No, and she would literally say that in a meeting.
I'd be like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? I could do all of these jobs. I'm like, no, don't say
I've been doing all these jobs. I don't need
Yeah.
y'all. Why can't you get this done?
Yeah.
And so Diana, because she's also my friend, she would text me, Dominique, shut up. You can't say that. And I'm like, no. Because and I'm like, we're like offline texting.
Yeah.
And I had to, like, she had to come to me and she's like, Dominique, like, what'd you say? Like, girl.
Yeah, I literally had to have like a one-on-one with her, and I was like, hey, okay, you are a CEO of a brand, right? These people are looking at you as their leader. So as a leader, you can't say certain things in the meeting, even if you feel them, right? You have to be strategic about how you have those conversations, right? You don't want someone to leave the company and be bad mouthing because of just one interaction, right? It's really not bad. It's just that one thing that happened. So I was like, everything has to be a strategy, right? You have to have the conversation at the right time. One person not doing their job in the middle of like reporting in a meeting, we can't single them out, right? We have to say, okay, that sounds great. Okay, we may not agree in this moment. Let's schedule a one-on-one, right? Let's pull them to the side next time that we're in front of them and like let them know like, hey, how are you feeling about this? How am I feeling? And then sometimes it's just lack of communication, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't set this person up for success and they don't understand what their role really is. So sometimes it could be us. And we automatically go to the person that's not doing their job, but really did we do ours? And those are the types of things that I have to pull her back and say, let's reevaluate this. Did we give this person everything that they needed to be successful? If that box is checked, then okay, now, are they the best person for this role? Yes, no, yes, okay, great. So then there's something that's missing, right? And that's what we have to do. And we can't just go to automatically, it's like, you're not doing your job and you fired. And I'm like, what is happening here? So that was one of the biggest things that we had to kind of overcome. And I think we're much better at that, right?
I personally feel like I'm much better. I mean, it has been, I feel like, 8, 9, 10 months since you had to text me on the side.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while. I feel like, because I even had to take a step back and I'm just like, okay, I'm probably not saying I'm taking it too personal, but I know how much and how hard I have worked to build everything. And so a lot of it wasn't just like anger at the people. It's just like,
it's the passion behind and the love behind your brand.
How much, like, and I'm like, also, if they're not delivering the product the way that it needs to be delivered, and I'm like, no, our customers are coming to us. They're investing their hard-earned money. We can't half-ass it. We need to make sure that we're delivering this the way I say it's going to be delivered. If you can't get it done that way, then you got to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's simple as that.
There's just a way of saying that. And that was
so I was trying to say it that way. And then Diana's like, no.
There's a way.
Let's
let's come back. And let's have the conversation at a different time.
And this is why it's really important, like, as an entrepreneur and as a CEO, like having other people and also realizing, like, having that, we've been talking a lot about on the podcast, the self-actualization, like, and understanding what your weaknesses are. You know, most of her strengths are my weaknesses, right? She's organized. I'm not. She's more compassionate. I tend not to be. You know, she's a planner. I'm not. You know, I'm like, hey, let's do this in 20 minutes. And Diana's like, no, Dominique, no, that's not happening in 20 minutes. It's, you know, but even like my wedding, right?
Oh, yeah.
Diana planned my wedding in
2 months. Was it 2 months?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh, you're right. I'm getting confused with the retreat. It was 3 weeks. Oh my gosh.
Diana, hey, Diana, I'm getting married. Okay, I would love to plan your wedding. When is it? In 3 weeks. She's what? It's
and let's talk about that really quickly, right? This is a friend moment. So she calls me. Well, it was also business because she did hire me to do it.
Yeah, I was hiring her.
And I was just like, what? 3 weeks? And you know, you would think that, hey, you're gonna do it in someone's backyard, right? You don't want a bunch of decor. You don't want a bunch of things happening. It's going to be small. It'll be cute. We can do it in a couple of days. No. This is a full-on production. I had to go and get a decor company that thought I was crazy when I gave them the date. You mean the next year? No. I mean, like in 3 weeks, ma'am.
It was so hilarious that every vendor you were calling was like, what the hell do you mean October 10th? It's September 15th.
I'm like, I said what I said. But that is how she operates in her business every day. And sometimes, although it's great, you know, you need that. But at the same time, sometimes having a team, everyone can't do that, right?
Yes.
So Dominique will say like, hey, tomorrow I want to do boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, great. Did we talk to customer support? Are they ready for all of those questions that are coming to the inbox? Do we have a community manager? Are they ready to hype up the people about this new product or this new thing?
Is marketing locked in and ready?
Is marketing locked in? Have we talked to our ads company? Are we ready to do X, Y, and Z?
And I'm
do we have the videos ready? You have, right. And sometimes it's like, hey, your calendar is booked all week. How are you going to schedule that video or do that or do that
when are you
content shoot?
A lot of times she's like, Dominique, when the hell are you going to do this?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm looking at your calendar right now. You are booked for the next 2 weeks. When? And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do it on a Saturday. She's like, come on, be realistic. And so that was also hard for me too, like I said, because I was used to running all this by myself. And now she's like, okay, like let me go and talk to customer support to make sure they have the bandwidth to handle the influx of emails. And we have to make sure that marketing has this. And then did you give ads people the budget? And do you have the creative? And I'm just like, sometimes it's like, what have I created? Because before, when I had an idea, it's just like, cool, I have this idea, I go and make it happen. And now that I've built this business where there's like all these checks and balances where oftentimes I would get frustrated and I'm like almost mad at what I created. Like, yes, I've created this thing. I would be like, oh, I'm going to get rid of all these people because this is ridiculous. Like, I could have been got this done. And now Dinah's like, no, because the growth team has this like check system now. And like, when you want to launch a new masterclass, Dominique, you need to fill in this form of what you want. And I'm like, oh my, like, what have I created? But I also understand now that if I want to grow, I have to have these things in place. Exactly. And that was really hard for me because I have never been a CEO. Mm-hmm. And I joke about it and say I'm not a great CEO. I am not the best CEO. And I know that because I am more of an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And all of this management, organized structure, and it's not my thing. Yeah. But I'm learning. And, I appreciate your grace while I'm learning because I'm like, I know this isn't easy. Yeah. What do you feel like is probably one of the more difficult things you have to do in your job, and then one of the most difficult things with working with a CEO and entrepreneur like myself?
Okay. Firing people. Oh, that's hard.
You're good at it though.
That sounds so bad.
I know, but you're so good at it.
I'm just the Grinch out here. But no, firing people is hard, right? Yeah. And I've working with you wasn't the first time I had to do it, because I've helped manage teams before in the nonprofit space. But it's hard, and honestly, I think working in this space it is a lot harder because you're working with contractors and people, and you hear their story.
Our company is so small.
The company is so small,
and
right?
So we get to know these people, and we often, as Justin, my business manager, says, I often fire them later than I should.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I cared too much, and even there, we've been like, oh my God, we should have been let this person go. And it's like, oh, but this is going on. Yeah. So,
that is definitely the hard part, because you get to know them because it is a small team. They are part of your family. It is sometimes hard to also see people that you see as your family not really living out their greatness, right? That's happened before, and that probably was one of the hardest ones I had, when it was like, you really could be better, but you're choosing to work at this level just a little bit. So that's hard, right? And that's just family, friends, whatever. I hate seeing people when it's like, man, you could be better, but you're choosing to do these things.
And I feel like we always give them like I said, too much time, and like, give them one more chance. And that's one of the hardest parts too, of just be, like you said, being a chief of staff, but also being a CEO. I hate when I have to make those decisions. I ain't gonna lie, so much easier knowing that I can be like, okay, Diana, the decision's made.
Exactly.
It's all you, boo. Let me know how I go.
So tomorrow we're firing X, Y, and Z. Can you call them? And I'm like, okay. I was just talking to this
after I'm
person.
Like, so how'd it go?
Right after, she's like, okay, so what happened? What's going on? And I'm like, I'm over here crying, okay? Like,
I'm not laughing about the Grinch. I'm just laughing and thinking, I don't have to do it.
So that's hard. Working with an entrepreneur, now CEO, or that transition, one we already talked about, which is just the learning that you're not by yourself, right? Yeah. It's not a 3-person, and we didn't really talk about going into this in too much detail, so I will now. Yeah. When you have 3 people and then you go to 25, right? And you say that you want, let's say for instance, like you want operations, you want things in place, and then the things are in place and it's different, right?
And I wanted these things in place and then did not.
Yeah. There's like, I don't want to follow that rule. I know I told you to make the rule, but I don't want that rule.
Literally, I'm like, yes, we paid all this person to put all these operations in place, but I don't got time for it. And Donna's like, what are you talking about?
You can't do that. So that's hard because you feel like you're also like you're helping this person. Not, we're teaching, right? Yeah. This, like, hey, we have to do this as a team, right? We're building, teamwork makes the dream work, right? We want them to feel like we're all in. And some of these things are maybe ideas that our teammates have, and you want them to feel like the CEO supports this idea because they have buy-in, right? So you want, so that was a transition. The other one, I mean, not transition, that's kind of hard. The other one is the dreaming all of the time. Dreaming and big goals. Tomorrow we need to build an island and we're gonna film the podcast on the island. What? And sometimes it's just like really, and I am not a dream killer. Yeah. My husband is a dreamer as well, and so I'm used to it. Yeah. But for someone like me that has like the 10-step plan for it, it's just like, but I need to know this last week, or I need to know that time. So that wasn't not necessarily hard working with you, but it was something I had to learn too.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge because I had to learn how I have to pivot and always be on my toes, or always having something saved, right, for these types of things so that I can be ready, or researching things, or trying to be a step ahead or two ahead of Dominique, right? Like, oh, this is coming up, Black Friday's coming up, she's going to want to know something. Are we all ready with ideas? Do we have this? Or even with the new company that you acquired, already starting to think about ideas, already starting to think big, because I know she wants a particular artist, right? So I'm already starting to think about all the ideas and the people and put it on a sheet so I could be a step ahead. But that's something I had to learn.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things, honestly, that I love most about you is your proactiveness. I can't talk today. Proactiveness. But also is what pisses me off about some of the other people that we work with.
Yeah,
is the lack of proactiveness. And I'll be like, come on now. And so, not to compare everyone to Diana, but it's like if Diana understands the importance of proactiveness, especially in a startup world, like y'all need to get this too. But that like I said, that's something that I love and I needed, right, to help us reach a lot of these things. It's really cool too. Like even right now we're sitting here, we're recording a podcast. I came up with the idea to have a podcast last year, and now we have a podcast, and we're recording it in Mexico, and you planned this awesome retreat here in Mexico. And for me, I love, and I'm not sure if you ever like sit and stop and like soak in what we're creating, but a lot of the ideas that I have or you have or whoever has, we make them happen.
We do. We always make them happen.
And we're always sitting here and we're in it and we're just like, oh my gosh, like
how do we do this?
How do we do this? It's like, okay, wow, now we have these people here in Mexico. You know, we pulled off the other retreat and we had, 90 something people or 80 people, in 2.5 months, even with the acquisition of the last company, we're sitting there and we're like, wow, look, we own this and we're here and like this is gonna be amazing next year. And then even now who we brung on to partner, and then it's like, yo, we are doing it, like we're literally doing it. So hopefully you also sit, because I know a lot of times you be getting stuck up in the weeds, and it's like let's take a second and be like, wow.
Sometimes I do sit there and I'm like, wow, I was literally working in a nonprofit trying to figure out what was next, and I'm here, right? I'm able to work from home in a robe, a TWC robe, our company, one of our company robes, or I'm at the gym doing it in the lobby or wherever it is, right? Or traveling the world and working. So that part is great. Or in Nigeria, right? I was just in Nigeria for 2 months after our wedding, and I was able to work from there. And his family's like, "What are you doing? What is happening?" So that's great. But it is just sitting back and be like, wow, like we're doing this.
We doing it.
And not only am I doing it, but I'm doing it with you. And I really do appreciate just being a part of the process. And
don't make me cry.
Right, I know, right?
I haven't gone on the podcast yet.
No, I do have I do sit down. I'm like, wow, like I'm literally sitting here with my friend that I met. She told me this dream. Wow, I feel like I'm about to cry too. I remember us like literally at your apartment. Is this our first
crying episode?
Right.
Oh my God.
I remember you talking about finances demystified at your apartment in Houston, Texas. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, girl, and her being on the phone with clients. Yeah. And so I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And I remember the call when you told me you became, you were a millionaire, and us continuing to grow and going through the ups and downs. And pushing through, like, it has been a roller coaster, but it has been so much fun.
No, it's definitely been fun.
It's a roller coaster that you put your hands up and you're screaming. Yeah. Right? But you make it to the end.
You barely.
You make it to the end.
We're still on the roller coaster. But I would say, it's like you said, just being able to do it with your friends. So how do you feel? Because a lot of people are like, a lot of times they say, don't
work with your friends.
Don't work with your friends.
Yeah.
And you probably heard people that say, girl, don't work with Dominique.
No, I don't get that.
No? Okay.
I don't get that.
They think I'm great. So what are your thoughts with that, right?
So I am, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's my first crying one. It's cool.
Okay, so I am really good with like turning things on and off, right? Yeah. And I remember one time at her retreat talking about just our family and the people, because it's not just me. I'm not the only family friend, I'm part of the business. But it was one time, actually at a retreat, and Dominique was late. 2 other family friend team members, right? Actually 3. It was 3. Yeah. It was 3, and they were all late. And I pulled them to the side, right? And I said, no one will ever tell us that we do not belong here. because we're because of our work ethic, right? So if you are gonna work here, I don't care, cousin, sister, friend, niece, whoever, we're gonna be on time and we're gonna be here because no one will ever tell us that we're here because of our family or our friend
or our connection with Dominique.
With Dominique. It would never happen for me because I will always be there and I will always work my hardest, right? And if I'm late, I'm gonna say something. I treat Dominique as my CEO when Dominique is my CEO, and I sometimes tell her, "Hey, are you talking to me as your friend?"
Yeah, and sometimes I call, I'll be like, she's like, "What's up?" I'm like, "This is a friend talk." She's like, "Okay, what's up?"
I have to transition, right? And that is just who I am as a person. Like, am I being your friend today?
And then we'll be like, "Okay, work talk." We'll be like, "All right, cool."
now let's handle payroll, right? Turn it on. And even when we're on like our video call, right? We'll pause the mute. Pause the recording.
Like, girl, stop the recording real quick.
Stop the recording. But yeah, so that is just who I am. Yeah. Like, so it was easy for me. Yeah. But I do know others struggle with it. So when it has been a problem, I pull people to the side and say, "Hey, you a friend, you a cousin, whoever, you better work your best because she will fire you." Her own mother is a story. She always says I was the one who fired her, but I didn't fire her.
She never really got hired.
Right, she never really got hired.
She didn't even make the little, what is it, the trial, the internship. She was
like, "Oh, y'all really working." I'm like, "Yes, Mom, we work."
We was like, I was like, "Yeah, Donna, that ain't gonna work."
But no one has excuses for me, so that wasn't really that hard for me because I can just turn it on and turn it off. Yeah. And hopefully we continue to be able to do that. And it hasn't been hard. Honestly, if something was hard, I would say, "Dominique, hey, this is not working for me." Yeah. But honestly, we work really well.
We really do.
It was at a conference we went to last June that it was a lady that was speaking with you. And remember she was like, "Man, if I was working with my best friend, we would be calling each other all types of this, that, blah, blah, blah." And that has never been happening to us.
But we also don't. We've never talked crazy to each other.
Yeah, our personality isn't like that.
We don't like...
But I know when Dominique's not having a good day.
Oh, yeah, you'll know.
And she knows when not having a good day. Matter of fact, I wasn't having a good day recently. The other day. And then the next morning, she sent me. But she also knows what's going on. Yeah. And as my life is changing and growing, which is a blessing. But yeah. So she was like, "Hey, I know that there's a lot going on. I know this is happening. Like, if you need to take a break, push through." When
No, I said you don't have to push through.
Yeah.
I was
I'm saying, you don't have to push through.
Don't feel like you got to push through. If you're tired, if you need any, just let me know.
Let me know. Because it was a moment, it was about the retreat. Yeah. And Dominique changes her answers 10 times. And I was just, I am not at the place.
She's probably so tired of me right now.
I am not at the emotional place to sit here and take the back and forth. But anyways, so we know when to tap each other out. Right? And we know when it's like, "Hey, you can work harder."
Yeah.
And or sometimes I'm just good like, "Diana, okay, this is just not a good day for you. Like, get it together." Yeah. And I think that that's something that we also do very well. And I would say for any other CEO that is trying to hire out a chief of staff or other team members, that you have to find the person that works well with you and your personality, and your work ethic. You have to be able to respect that person's feedback. If you're going to hire a team, you have to listen, right? You can't, and I even told this to you before, like, what's the purpose of hiring a team if you're not going to listen to the customer support manager, right? Yeah. If you're not going to listen to the person that is the expert in this particular space, we have to be able to listen to them and respect their opinion at all times. So she has to be able to say, "Okay, Diana, this is your area of expertise. You're telling me, hey, I can't say this on a call because of HR things or whatever it may be." And then whoever else may be saying something, that's what you have to do. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And it's important when you pick your chief of staff. So like any entrepreneurs looking, for that person, like as Diana is saying, like it has to be someone you trust. Yeah. Honestly, this person ends up being your right hand. Literally, everyone in the company knows, and even contractors, whoever, if you can't get to me, you can go to her and you're going to get the same whatever you need, right? Yeah. You're probably going to get it in a more organized manner than if you get it from me.
Maybe even quicker.
And quicker, that part. And that is really important. So before we wrap, was there anything else, chief of staff wise?
No.
You want to talk about?
No.
Okay. Because I know we can talk all day.
Yeah, we can.
As far as, when you think of true wealth, right? When you hear the words true wealth, what does that mean to you?
When I hear of true wealth, I was literally having this conversation today. It is my kids being set up.
Oh, Oh, okay.
That's true wealth to me. I don't want to see all of the wealth that my family and my name can have. I don't want to be able to see that, right?
Yeah.
I literally want, and I will continue to drive the car that I have as long as my great-great-grandkids are able to be set up. So whether it's me setting up my estate now, my investment things, and I'm not by any means the best person at that, but that is my goal to get to that place. So even here at the retreat, I'm listening to Justin, I'm listening to the other speakers and taking notes myself because I want to set myself up. And I'm around Dominique all the time when she talks about investing, and I'm telling my husband, like, that's his area. Like, I know me sitting down and just learning some of this stuff is like beyond my capacity at the time. But I'm like, hey, this is what you love. This is what you like to do. So learn this. Here's the course. Figure it out for our family. But that is what, now that I am officially starting my family, that is my goal, is to set up the next several generations that I won't even know to have true wealth.
You will do that. You will do that. Well, I'm excited for all the things. It's so crazy. Like, because when we first met, like we were both just two single ladies living our best tearing it up in Houston, and now it's different. So I want to thank you again, honestly, just for all that you do. You know, I love you. I could literally not do any of this, like any of this without you. So if you ever want to leave, I need like a year's notice, because I don't know how I would ever find a replacement. Like. You might have to give me like your firstborn or something. Like I'm gonna need a replicate. Like I don't know
generations and generations of Diana.
I need all the Dianas to help become CEOs. Of all the
and you know what? I just want to say one thing. It's like, thank you for helping me to see my greatness as well, right? Because you used to tell me, like, Diana, you're bigger than that role.
Yeah.
And there was a few other people who told me that, right? And I think I'm really starting to learn that. The skill sets that I have and the things that I do without even thinking about them are things that I just took advantage of. And I'm like, oh, that's nothing. Like, I can do that.
It's your natural skills.
Yeah, natural skills.
You have these insane natural skills that anyone that meets you is like, yo, Diana's a killer. Yeah. Like, not in a
thank you.
She doesn't hurt anyone. But like, she gets it done. And it's so rare that people get shit done. Yeah. There's so many talkers. Yeah. We talk about, oh my God, they still just talking. And me and Donna, like, we gonna talk about it, but it's about tomorrow morning. It's gonna be done. Yeah. And Donna's gonna have a whole plan, and it's gonna be getting done. And that's rare, and that's why I'm excited that you're chief of staff. And I know you're not gonna be chief of staff for Finances Demystified probably a lot longer, because now you're CEO of this other company, and then we're hoping to do other ventures together and things like that. And I know that all the skills and things you have are gonna. Listen, I'm just happy that I got you right now.
Thank you for Thank you for sure.
So I'm excited that you see your greatness as well. So and thank you for
love you, friend.
You ain't gonna have me keep crying on this show. Okay? All right. So to wrap it up, so we ain't gonna be out here just crying all morning.
I know.
But thank you so much again for coming on and planning this amazing retreat. Again, I appreciate you. So this has been another episode of True Wealth Conversations. Thank you again for Diana for being on.
Thank you for having me.